What happens when the brightest stars fall for the wrong person? In the glittering age of old Hollywood, passion wasn't just scripted, it was lived. These weren't just fleeting flings or whispered rumors. They were scandals so explosive they ruined careers, destroyed reputations, and, in some cases, led to tragedy. Tonight, we pull back the velvet curtain to reveal 15 of the most unforgettable affairs that brought Hollywood's legends to their knees. Prepare for a journey through obsession, betrayal, and the steep price of loving under the spotlight. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. When the names Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton are spoken, they conjure images of glamour, tempestuous love, and scandal that burned as bright as any star in the Hollywood sky. Their first encounter wasn't the stuff of fairy tales, but a collision of two fiercely talented personalities on the set of Cleopatra in the early 1960s. At the time, both were married, Elizabeth to singer Eddie Fisher and Richard to Sybil Williams. What began as a professional relationship quickly transformed into something far more intense. The world watched as their on-screen chemistry in Cleopatra spilled into real life, igniting an affair that made international headlines. The media frenzy surrounding Taylor and Burton was unlike anything Hollywood had seen. Paparazzi camped outside their hotels. News outlets around the globe ran breathless updates on their every move. Both actors' marriages crumbled under the pressure, and the Vatican itself condemned their relationship as erotic vagrancy. But Taylor and Burton seemed unbothered by the moral outrage, plunging deeper into their whirlwind romance. Their union was marked by extravagance and drama. They lavished each other with extravagant gifts. Burton once gave Taylor a 33-carat diamond that became nearly as famous as their love affair. Yet, beneath the glittering surface, their relationship was turbulent. The passion that drew them together also fueled frequent arguments and jealousies, often played out in public. Both were known for their strong wills and tempers, and their love affair became legendary for its fiery ups and downs. They married in 1964, and for a time, it seemed the drama had reached a fever pitch. Together, they starred in multiple films, each performance charged with the energy of their real-life connection. However, the intensity that made their love so thrilling also made it unsustainable. They divorced in 1974, only to remarry in 1975, and then divorce again just a year later. By the end, the relationship had left both of them emotionally and physically exhausted. Yet, for all the ruin and heartbreak, their love story remains one of the most enduring legends of old Hollywood. A passionate, reckless affair that changed the lives of everyone involved and left an indelible mark on cinematic history. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard. Clark Gable, often called the King of Hollywood, was already a legend when he met Carole Lombard, the vivacious and witty actress known for her comedic brilliance and sparkling personality. Their paths had crossed before, but it wasn't until the late 1930s that their romance truly blossomed. Gable, at the time, was married to Texas socialite Rhea Langham, but his connection with Lombard was immediate and undeniable. Unlike many Hollywood romances, Gable and Lombard's love was refreshingly genuine. They delighted in each other's company, trading jokes and playful banter both in public and private. Friends and colleagues remarked on how their personalities complemented each other. Her mischievous humor softened his stoic charm. In 1939, after Gable's lengthy and complicated divorce, the couple married in a quiet ceremony, far from the glare of the press. Their union, though brief, was marked by deep affection and mutual respect. They purchased a ranch together, seeking a life of relative normalcy, away from the constant attention of Hollywood. Lombard, who was fiercely independent, found solace in Gable's unwavering support, and he, in turn, relied on her vivacity to weather the pressures of stardom. But happiness in Hollywood often comes at a price. In 1942, as the world was plunged into war, Carole Lombard embarked on a cross-country tour selling war bonds. Always devoted to her causes, she insisted on returning home as quickly as possible to be with Gable. Tragedy struck when the plane carrying her crashed in Nevada, killing everyone on board. Gable was devastated beyond words. He rushed to the crash site, hoping against hope for a miracle that never came. The loss of Carole Lombard shattered Gable. He was inconsolable, and friends said he was never quite the same afterward. He threw himself into military service, joining the Air Force and flying combat missions, a testament to how deeply Lombard's death affected him. The love story of Clark Gable and Carole Lombard endures not just for its joy and romance, but for the profound heartbreak that marked its end, forever casting a shadow over Hollywood's golden era. Charlie Chaplin and Lita Grey. Charlie Chaplin, the silent film legend whose Little Tramp character charmed audiences around the globe, lived a life off-screen as dramatic as any of his films. By the 1920s, Chaplin was already an icon, celebrated for his creativity and comic genius. Yet his private life would soon become a battleground of scandal and heartbreak, particularly in his relationship with Lita Grey. Chaplin first met Lita Grey when she was just a teenager, cast in his film The Kid. Years later, their paths crossed again when he was looking for a leading lady for the gold rush. Their professional collaboration quickly escalated into a secret romance. Lita, still very young, soon found herself at the center of a brewing scandal when she became pregnant. In an era when personal reputations could be destroyed by rumors, Chaplin felt immense pressure to preserve his carefully constructed public image. He and Lita married in secret in 1924, hoping to contain the scandal, but the union was troubled from the start. Chaplin's perfectionism and controlling nature clashed with Lita's youth and inexperience. The marriage was beset by frequent arguments, jealousy, and a growing sense of resentment. Both struggled with the pressures of Hollywood and the expectations placed upon them. The inevitable unraveling of their relationship became one of the most explosive events in early Hollywood. When Lita filed for divorce, she leveled a series of shocking accusations against Chaplin, sparking a highly publicized court battle. The divorce proceedings were front-page news, with every sordid detail eagerly devoured by a fascinated public. Lita received a substantial settlement, and Chaplin's reputation took a major hit. The fallout from the divorce was severe. Chaplin's career suffered, and he became the target of moral outrage and legal scrutiny. Lita, meanwhile, struggled to find her own place in the world, burdened by the legacy of her brief but tumultuous marriage. The affair, with all its secrecy and scandal, stands as a stark reminder of how even the brightest stars in Hollywood's firmament could be brought low by the very passions that made them famous. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. For a time, Ingrid Bergman was the shining beacon of Hollywood's golden age. Her reputation was built on talent and grace, with films like Casablanca and Gaslight earning her a place in the pantheon of cinematic icons. Audiences saw in her the embodiment of virtue, elegant, dignified, and untouchable. But beneath the surface, Bergman was drawn to creative passion and a search for meaning that would lead her to both artistic fulfillment and personal ruin. Everything changed in the late 1940s, when Bergman wrote a fateful letter to Italian director Roberto Rossellini, expressing her admiration and desire to collaborate. The letter was innocent enough, but what followed was anything but. Bergman, married with a daughter, met Rossellini on the set of Stromboli. Their artistic connection quickly turned into a romantic one, and the two began a passionate affair. The spark between them was undeniable, and soon Bergman was pregnant with Rossellini's child. The fallout was immediate and fierce. American audiences who had adored Bergman were outraged. Politicians and religious leaders denounced her from pulpits and in Congress, labeling her a threat to public morals. Her films were boycotted and banned in some places. Bergman, once America's favorite star, was now painted as a cautionary tale. She moved to Italy, married Rossellini, and gave birth to their son before her divorce was finalized, a move that scandalized both continents. Her relationship with Rossellini was intense and at times chaotic. They created a number of films together, exploring themes of loneliness and identity that mirrored their real-life struggles. But the same passion that brought them together also tore them apart. The pressure of public scrutiny, cultural differences, and Rossellini's own infidelities weighed heavily on their marriage. By 1957, their union was over, and Bergman found herself isolated from the world that once embraced her. Still, Bergman's resilience was remarkable. Exiled from Hollywood, she thrived in European cinema, eventually returning to America and earning a second Academy Award. Yet, the shadow of the scandal lingered. The affair with Rossellini forever changed the way audiences saw her. No longer just a symbol of innocence, but a woman unafraid to follow her heart, even at great personal cost. It was a story not just of ruin, but of transformation, and a reminder that behind every perfect image lies a complex and very human story. Jean Harlow and Paul Byrne. Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell, embodied the daring and modern spirit of early Hollywood. By her mid-20s, she was already a sensation, known for her dazzling beauty, wit, and a screen presence that seemed to crackle with electricity. Behind the scenes, however, her life was often overshadowed by instability and heartbreak. No chapter was more tragic than her marriage to MGM executive Paul Byrne. Their courtship seemed to promise stability. Byrne was sophisticated and respected, a man who offered Harlow not just affection, but guidance and protection in an industry filled with pitfalls. The couple married in 1932, and for a brief moment, it seemed Harlow had found the happiness that had eluded her. But only 2 months after their wedding, everything unraveled in the most public and mysterious way. Paul Byrne was found dead in their home, the victim of a gunshot wound. The death was quickly ruled a suicide, but rumors swirled through Hollywood. Whispers of a struggle, a mysterious woman seen near the house, and a cryptic note left behind fueled speculation that there was more to the story than met the eye. Some believed Byrne had been tormented by personal troubles, others that there was a cover-up to protect Harlow's career and the MGM studio. The scandal was explosive. Newspapers devoted endless columns to every new rumor, and Harlow was thrust into the harshest spotlight of her career. Though never formally accused of wrongdoing, the tragedy left her emotionally shattered and more isolated than ever. MGM rushed to protect its star, but the truth about Byrne's death remained a closely guarded secret, fueling decades of speculation. Despite the trauma, Harlow's star continued to rise, but she was forever marked by loss. She carried the weight of the scandal with quiet dignity, pouring herself into her work. But even as she enjoyed professional success, her personal life remained fraught with sorrow and uncertainty. Her own life would end tragically just 5 years later, at the age of 26, cementing her as one of Hollywood's most enduring symbols of beauty, heartbreak, and the high cost of fame. The story of Jean Harlow and Paul Byrne is one of old Hollywood's greatest mysteries, a union that ended in ruin, leaving questions that remain unanswered to this day. Joan Crawford and Franchot Tone. Joan Crawford was a force to be reckoned with. Ambitious, glamorous, and fiercely talented, she was one of the defining actresses of her generation. Yet, beneath her commanding persona lay a vulnerability, a longing for love and acceptance that shaped her tumultuous personal life. Her affair, and eventual marriage to actor Franchot Tone, would become one of Hollywood's most complicated and ultimately heartbreaking romances. The two met on the set of Dancing Lady in 1933. Crawford was already a major star, while Tone was a sophisticated stage actor making his mark in the film industry. Their chemistry was immediate, both on and off screen. Crawford, captivated by Tone's intellect and refinement, saw in him a partner who could match her ambition. Tone, for his part, was drawn to Crawford's fiery energy and undeniable charm. Their relationship quickly became the talk of Hollywood. However, their romance was far from simple. Tone was engaged to another woman when he began seeing Crawford, and their union was shadowed by jealousy and suspicion almost from the start. After a whirlwind courtship, they married in 1935. But the pressures of fame and the constant attention of the press strained their bond. Crawford's intense career focus often took precedence over her marriage, while Tone struggled with feelings of inadequacy in the shadow of his wife's success. Rumors swirled about infidelity on both sides, and their home life grew increasingly volatile. Friends and colleagues noted that Crawford's high expectations and emotional volatility clashed with Tone's sensitivity, creating a cycle of arguments and reconciliations. Eventually, the strain proved too much. The marriage unraveled, leaving both parties deeply wounded. Tone's struggles with alcoholism and disappointment were exacerbated by the collapse of their relationship, while Crawford would later describe their time together as both thrilling and deeply painful. She never truly recovered from the heartbreak, and Tone's life spiraled into further turmoil. Their story is emblematic of Hollywood's golden age. Two stars caught in a web of passion, ambition, and the relentless demands of fame. For all the glamour and excitement, the relationship between Joan Crawford and Franchot Tone stands as a cautionary tale about the heavy price paid for love in the glare of the spotlight. Lana Turner and Johnny Stompanato. Lana Turner's life was the stuff of Hollywood legend, glamorous, tumultuous, and forever shadowed by scandal. Known for her captivating beauty and undeniable screen presence, Turner rose from humble beginnings to become one of the era's most sought-after stars. But her romantic life was a storm of heartbreaks, and no relationship cast a darker shadow than her affair with Johnny Stompanato. Stompanato, a handsome but dangerous figure with ties to organized crime, entered Turner's life at a time when she was searching for stability, but often drawn to the thrill of romance. Their relationship quickly became the talk of Hollywood, not for its glamour, but for its volatility. Friends and colleagues worried about Turner, describing Stompanato as controlling and possessive. Their arguments were frequent and loud, sometimes erupting in public places, and always ending in emotional upheaval. For Turner, the relationship was a harrowing mix of passion and fear. Stompanato was charming, but beneath the surface was a man who used intimidation to maintain his grip on her. Those close to Turner noticed how she became increasingly anxious and withdrawn, a far cry from the confident persona she showed the world. Stompanato's temper was notorious, and their romance seemed always on the brink of disaster. The final chapter of their affair unfolded in 1958 in Turner's own home. An argument escalated, and in a moment that would shock the nation, Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, intervened to protect her mother. Stompanato was fatally wounded. The ensuing investigation riveted the country. The courts ultimately ruled the act was justifiable, citing self-defense, but the impact on Turner and her daughter was devastating. The press seized on every detail, and Turner's career and private life were dissected by the public. For Lana Turner, the tragedy marked a turning point. Though she continued to act, her personal life was never the same. The haunting events of that night became inseparable from her legacy. Cheryl Crane, forever marked by her actions as a child, spent years trying to find peace. The affair with Stompanato remains one of Hollywood's most sensational and tragic tales. A story of love, danger, and the lengths to which a mother and daughter would go to escape a nightmare. Behind the allure of stardom, Turner's heartbreak stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly glamour can turn to ruin. Errol Flynn and multiple affairs. Errol Flynn was the swashbuckler of Hollywood's golden age, famous for roles that oozed charm, bravery, and a devil-may-care attitude. Off-screen, however, Flynn's life was just as wild. His reputation for romance and mischief often threatened to eclipse his achievements as an actor. Flynn's many affairs would lead to scandal, ruin, and a legacy that is both fascinating and tragic. Flynn's escapades began almost as soon as he arrived in Hollywood. With his striking good looks and magnetic personality, he was rarely seen without an entourage of admirers. His relationships with women were legendary, marked by spontaneity and little regard for convention. Yet, as the years passed, his behavior grew increasingly reckless. The most notorious of Flynn's affairs involved women much younger than himself, drawing widespread condemnation. Legal troubles followed, with accusations that led to high-profile court cases. Although Flynn was acquitted of the most serious charges, the ordeal forever tainted his image. Hollywood, once eager to celebrate his roguish persona, became wary. Roles became harder to find, and producers hesitated to cast him in major projects. The public, too, was divided. Some continued to idolize Flynn for his rebellious spirit, while others saw him as a symbol of the excesses and moral ambiguities of old Hollywood. The years of hard living began to catch up with him. His health declined, his personal life unraveled, and his relationships were marred by jealousy and betrayal. In the end, Flynn's career faded just as dramatically as it had risen. He died young, his fortunes depleted, and his reputation in tatters. Those who knew him remembered a man who was both larger than life and deeply troubled, a reminder that behind the legend of the swashbuckling hero was a complex figure haunted by his own choices. Errol Flynn's story is one of both allure and caution. His affairs, once the envy of Hollywood, became the seeds of his downfall. The price of living on the edge proved too great, leaving behind a legacy as captivating as it was tragic. The golden boy of adventure films, Flynn's life off-screen serves as a stark warning about the destructive power of unchecked passion and fame. Peg Entwistle. The story of Peg Entwistle is one of Hollywood's most poignant tragedies, a tale of hope, shattered dreams, and an ending that has become a somber legend. Born in England and raised in America, Entwistle was drawn to the stage from a young age. She found early success in theater, celebrated for her striking looks and emotive performances. But as many aspiring actors would discover, the path to lasting stardom in Hollywood was perilous. Entwistle arrived in Los Angeles in the early 1930s, joining the flood of hopefuls looking to make their mark on the silver screen. Her talent soon earned her a contract with RKO Pictures, and she landed a supporting role in the film 13 Women. But Hollywood was fickle, and the studio system cared little for potential unfulfilled. Despite her abilities, Entwistle's film career stalled before it truly began. Promised roles disappeared, offers dried up, and she found herself adrift in a city that quickly forgets its struggling stars. Personal relationships, too, were marked by disappointment. Entwistle married actor Robert Keith, only to discover he had concealed a previous marriage and a child. The union collapsed under the weight of deception and unmet expectations, leaving Entwistle feeling isolated in both her personal and professional life. As her opportunities dwindled, Entwistle's hope began to fade. Hollywood's relentless optimism turned into a heavy burden. In 1932, at just 24 years old, Entwistle's story came to a devastating end when she climbed to the top of the Hollywoodland sign and fell. Her passing sent shockwaves through the community and became an enduring symbol of the city's broken dreams. Today, Peg Entwistle is remembered not just for her brief time in Hollywood, but for the legacy she left behind. A stark reminder of how ambition, heartbreak, and disappointment can become intertwined beneath the dazzling lights of fame. Her story is often invoked as a cautionary tale about the high cost of chasing stardom and the hidden struggles faced by those who never find the success they so desperately seek. Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys. Marilyn Monroe remains one of Hollywood's most enduring symbols of beauty, charm, and vulnerability. Her life was a dazzling ascent through fame, yet behind her radiant image lay a complex web of longing and heartbreak. Among the most whispered about chapters of Monroe's life is her connection to the Kennedy family. a series of affairs that would entwine her fate with the most powerful men in America and contribute to a legacy shadowed by mystery and loss. Monroe's introduction to John F. Kennedy, and later his brother Robert Kennedy, placed her at the heart of American politics and power. Their interactions, initially friendly, soon grew more intimate. Monroe was captivated by John's charisma and intelligence, while Robert's earnestness drew her in further. Rumors of private meetings, whispered phone calls, and secret visits began to swirl. The press speculated endlessly, but the details remained shrouded in secrecy, fueling endless fascination. For Monroe, these relationships offered excitement, but also great risk. The Kennedys were married men and public figures, their reputations carefully protected. Monroe, already subject to relentless media scrutiny, found herself caught between passion and peril. The pressures of Hollywood fame combined with the demands of these hidden romances weighed heavily on her. As whispers grew, so did Monroe's sense of isolation. She struggled with sleeplessness and emotional distress, confiding in friends that she felt used and discarded by those around her. The men she loved could not offer her the stability she craved. Her private turmoil grew as the public's appetite for scandal intensified. In August 1962, Monroe's life came to a sudden and tragic end. Found lifeless in her Los Angeles home, she left behind more questions than answers. Conspiracy theories blossomed in the years that followed, many centering on her relationships with the Kennedys and the secrets she might have known. The official account described her passing as an overdose, but speculation continues to this day about the true circumstances. Marilyn Monroe's affairs with John and Robert Kennedy represent the collision of Hollywood glamour and political power, an intoxicating mixture that ultimately brought ruin and suspicion. Her story is a haunting testament to the dangers of living too close to the spotlight and the way love, ambition, and secrecy can become a fatal combination. Monroe's legend lives on, forever tinged with the heartbreak and mystery that marked her final years. George Reeves and Toni Mannix. George Reeves, the man who brought Superman to life on television, enjoyed a success that inspired a generation of young viewers. Behind the cape and iconic S was a gifted actor struggling to find lasting happiness. His love affair with Toni Mannix, the wife of powerful MGM executive Eddie Mannix, began as a secret romance and ended as one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. Reeves and Toni Mannix were drawn to each other almost immediately. She was older, worldly, and understood the pressures of Hollywood. Reeves found in her a confidant and a champion, someone who supported his ambitions during his rise to stardom. Their relationship, though hidden from the public, became the center of Reeves's private life. Yet it was fraught with peril. Eddie Mannix's reputation for ruthlessness was well known, and the tangled web of affection, jealousy, and power created an atmosphere of constant tension. As Superman's popularity soared, Reeves felt the burden of typecasting. He longed for more substantial roles, but offers rarely came. The frustration wore on him, and rumors of a growing distance between him and Toni began to circulate. When Reeves became engaged to another woman, Leonore Lemmon, the love triangle entered its most dangerous phase. In June 1959, Reeves was found dead in his home from a gunshot wound. Authorities ruled it a suicide, but doubts quickly emerged. Friends and fans could not accept that their hero had taken his own life. Theories multiplied. Some suspected foul play. Others whispered of revenge and betrayal. The presence of Toni Mannix and her husband loomed over every speculation. Decades later, questions persist. Was Reeves the victim of heartbreak, pressure, or something more sinister? The tragedy left all involved deeply scarred. Toni Mannix was said to have mourned Reeves for the rest of her life, never speaking publicly about their affair. Reeves's legacy, once built on hope and heroism, became forever entwined with unresolved sorrow. The story of George Reeves and Toni Mannix is a cautionary tale about love, loyalty, and the perils of secrets in an industry built on illusions. For many, the real story remains unsolved, a haunting reminder of Hollywood's darkest shadows. Judy Garland and Sid Luft. Few stories in Hollywood are as poignant and heartbreaking as that of Judy Garland and Sid Luft. Garland, beloved for her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, grew up in front of America. Her remarkable talent matched only by her struggles with insecurity and relentless pressure. Sid Luft entered her life as both a protector and partner, yet their relationship would be marked by soaring highs and devastating lows. When Garland met Sid Luft, she was emerging from a period of instability, determined to reclaim her place in show business. Luft, a savvy producer with a reputation for resilience, saw in Garland both genius and fragility. He helped engineer her comeback with a triumphant concert at the Palace Theater in New York, sparking a renewed chapter in her career. Their love, at first, seemed to promise hope and healing. But the reality was far more complicated. Garland and Luft's marriage was stormy, defined by passionate devotion, but also fierce arguments. The pressures of fame, financial struggles, and Garland's ongoing battles with anxiety and prescription medications became an ever-present cloud over their household. Friends described Luft as both a lifeline and a source of tension, someone who enabled Garland's talent, but struggled to control her impulses. The couple had 2 children, and for a while, family life seemed to offer stability. Yet Garland's emotional struggles deepened over time. Luft, facing his own disappointments, found it increasingly hard to shield her from the hardships of stardom. Their home became a battleground of affection and conflict, love and heartbreak. As Garland's health faltered and her career faced new challenges, the marriage collapsed under the strain. The divorce was bitter, marked by public accusations and legal battles. Garland, left to navigate Hollywood and motherhood alone, never fully recovered from the loss. Luft's career never reached the same heights after their split. Judy Garland and Sid Luft's story is one of love that fought against impossible odds, but could not overcome the crushing weight of fame's demands. Garland's legacy as a performer remains unparalleled, but her private pain, amplified by the loss of love and the relentless pace of Hollywood, casts a long shadow. Their affair, like so many in old Hollywood, ended not in triumph, but in heartbreak and ruin. Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner. Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner's love story was marked by glamour, mystery, and a haunting sense of unfinished business. Wood, a star since childhood, grew up under the relentless gaze of the cameras. By the time she reached adulthood, she was already celebrated for her performances in classics like Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story. Wagner, handsome and ambitious, was one of Hollywood's rising leading men. Their paths crossed early, and the spark between them was immediate. They first married in 1957, the union symbolizing the perfect Hollywood couple. For a while, it seemed like a dream come true. 2 beautiful stars, adored by the public, starting a life together under the spotlight. But beneath the surface, insecurities and pressures took their toll. The demands of fame, career ambitions, and Wood's vulnerability began to create cracks in their marriage. Rumors of infidelity and jealousy began to swirl, and by 1962, the couple parted ways. Their separation did little to diminish their feelings for each other. Wood and Wagner each tried to move on, but something always drew them back together. In 1972, after years apart and failed marriages to other partners, they remarried, hoping to reclaim the happiness they once knew. For a time, life seemed to settle into a new, more mature rhythm, marked by family and professional success. But fate had other plans. In November 1981, the couple set sail with actor Christopher Walken for what was meant to be a relaxing weekend on their yacht off the coast of California. Instead, the trip ended in tragedy. Natalie Wood disappeared one night, her body later discovered in the water. The circumstances surrounding her passing have been the subject of intense speculation ever since. Questions about what happened on that boat linger to this day, casting a shadow over the memory of Hollywood's golden couple. Wagner, devastated, was left to face a barrage of rumors and investigations. For fans and friends alike, the story of Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner remains both romantic and tragic, a tale of love, loss, and the enduring mysteries that sometimes follow those who live in the harshest glare of fame. Their story endures as one of Hollywood's great unsolved heartbreaks. Barbara Payton, Tom Neal, and Franchot Tone. Barbara Payton's story is among the most tragic in the annals of old Hollywood, a tale of beauty, promise, and the spiraling consequences of a love triangle that ended in ruin. Payton was a luminous presence in the late 1940s, hailed for her stunning looks and undeniable talent. She captivated audiences in films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, but behind the allure was a young woman searching for happiness in all the wrong places. Her relationships with actors Tom Neal and Franchot Tone became the stuff of legend. Payton, drawn to Neal's raw charisma, began an affair while still engaged to Tone, a refined leading man known for his sophistication. The rivalry between Neal and Tone soon exploded into violence. In 1951, a brutal fight between the two men left Tone hospitalized with serious injuries. The press descended, eager to report every sordid detail, and Payton's reputation began to unravel. Rather than finding stability, Payton was caught in a cycle of drama and heartbreak. Her engagement to Tone ended soon after the incident, and her affair with Neal was marked by turbulence and public fights. The Hollywood studios, eager to protect their images, began to distance themselves. Payton's once promising career faded rapidly as casting directors and producers lost faith in her reliability. Personal struggles followed professional decline. Payton's descent was marked by troubled relationships, legal problems, and growing isolation from the world she had once dominated. Once celebrated as one of Hollywood's most beautiful rising stars, she found herself ostracized, fighting to survive outside the industry that had so recently celebrated her. Her life ended tragically in 1967, far from the spotlight, her final years spent in poverty and obscurity. The saga of Barbara Payton, Tom Neal, and Franchot Tone stands as one of Hollywood's most devastating cautionary tales, a story of passion, violence, and the relentless toll of fame. It is a reminder of how quickly fortunes can reverse, and how the pursuit of love and recognition can leave only heartbreak in its wake. Howard Hughes and Jean Peters. Howard Hughes was a legend even in his own time, a brilliant aviation pioneer, film producer, and one of America's wealthiest and most enigmatic figures. His romances with some of Hollywood's most glamorous women were the subject of endless fascination, but none was more enduring or mysterious than his relationship with Jean Peters. Peters, known for her beauty and natural acting style, first met Hughes in the late 1940s. Unlike many of Hughes's earlier companions, Peters was quiet, unpretentious, and deeply private. She shunned the Hollywood party scene and preferred the solace of home. This only seemed to deepen Hughes's interest. Their relationship was built on secrecy, with Hughes going to great lengths to protect their privacy, often disappearing for weeks at a time and communicating through elaborate means. The two married in 1957, and for a time, it seemed Peters had succeeded in taming the famously restless Hughes. But the reality was far more complex. Hughes's eccentricities intensified, and his increasing isolation began to define their marriage. Peters, left alone for long stretches, found herself living in a world shaped by Hughes's paranoia and control. The outside world grew more distant, and even friends struggled to understand the couple's arrangement. For Peters, the experience was stifling. She eventually filed for divorce in 1971, After nearly 15 years of marriage lived mostly in the shadows. Hughes, by then almost a recluse, continued to spiral into eccentricity and ill health. When he passed away in 1976, his fortune and his legend remained, but those closest to him were left with only memories of a man consumed by his own obsessions. Jean Peters, meanwhile, never spoke publicly about her years with Hughes, preferring to let her work stand apart from her private life. Their story is a haunting one, about the isolating power of fame and the hidden costs of loving a man who could never truly be reached. In the end, the relationship left both marked by a loneliness that even wealth and glory could not dispel. From diamond-studded scandals to secrets that changed lives forever, these old Hollywood affairs remind us that even legends couldn't escape heartbreak. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you love the drama, the mystery, and the history of Tinseltown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories from the golden age of Hollywood. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars. And remember, every legend has a dark side.